Hey there guys, and welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy XIII. In the last episode, we completed the airship Palamecia and defeated Bartandalus, which turned out to be a foul sea as Primarch Daisley in disguise. Alright, so after the heated battle, we now ended up in this mysterious place known as the Fifth Ark. So before proceeding, you can talk to characters to see their thoughts about things.
Destruction turned you to crystal.
Been checking your brand? You start to stray or take too much of a shock, your brand will change, and it'll be next stop XIII Central. Keep that in mind.
Once you're done talking to everybody, go ahead and proceed down the tunnel past the save point. Also, you might want to take note that the shops have updated some of their wares, so if you want, you can check out some of the shops for new items and equipment.
Are we ready to get out of here?
Continue down the tunnel, and once you pass Hope, he will ask you if you want to continue through the ruins. Choose yes to advance.
Yeah, I gotta apologize. Looks like I was wrong.
About Sarah's focus? Not like you to second-guess yourself.
Yeah, well, even heroes make mistakes.
What about your plan to protect Cocoon? Either way, your faith in Sarah was strong. That strength got you this far.
It was all wrong.
Yeah. You tried so hard to convince us that you even fooled yourself. You've been a total idiot. But still, it saved me. You trusted Sarah. Let that faith drive you. It even made me want to believe.
Sarah, talk to me, baby.
This couldn't be... I mean, those were just legends, right?
Alright, so after the scene, you'll now be able to make your own battle team. Also, now, you can switch leaders. Or no, you can't switch leaders. But you will be soon. So for now, let's go ahead and make the party Lightning, Vanille, and Saz. And let's set up some quick paradigms. Start off with the Commando, Ravager. And then Ravager. Commando, Ravager Synergist. Ravager, or actually Commando Ravager Synergist. Actually, Commando Medic Ravager. Commando Medic, or Commando Saboteur Commando. And finally, Medic Commando. Now let's go ahead and use the Decimation as our active paradigm. This way, Saz will be able to cast the haste buff at the start of battle. And this will give you an edge in all the upcoming battles. Once he casts haste, you can switch over to Relentless Assault. And you might want to switch back your equipment. For now, let's go ahead and remove the rune bracelets. And for lightning, I go ahead and use the gold bangle. And the brawler's wristband. For Vanille, you can use the shaman's mark and a titanium bangle. And for Saz, let's go ahead and use a shaman's mark and a titanium bangle. Alright, so once your equipment is set up, now we need to get through this area. And once we make it through here, the game's really going to open up, but we've still got a long ways to go because this area is pretty long. So after you set up the right battle team and watch the cutscenes, go ahead and head upstairs and you'll find a save point to the left. Check out the shops if you want to get some new items. And at the top of the stairs, you'll get a quick scene.
I can't believe we're still in Cocoon.
It's kinda creepy.
Alright, so after the scene, you'll be thrown into an event battle. Wait for Saz to stick haste on everybody, and then switch to relentless assault, and play like you normally would. Good healing paradigm is diversity, because you can stick with the assault while Vanille heals.
Thanks.
She's a really good medic.
Don't give up!
Thank you. Target's a target.
Oh, yeah?
Change of course. Keep the enemy off balance.
Yeah, so haste will really help you out in upcoming battles. Alright, now something that you really need to take note of is after this battle, you will get the role development unlocked. This means that your party members have unlocked the potential to assume all combat roles. From now on, you may also freely select the members of your battle team. To take on a new role, a member must first learn an ability for that role. You can teach a party member new abilities via the Crystarium.
This place. It must be an ark.
An ark?
That's what they called them.
Long ago, the Falsi, who made their home on Grand Pulse, were afraid of invasion from the outside. As part of their battle preparations, they created an army of living weapons, and they stored those weapons in arks. And they hid the arks all over the world.
Everyone on Grand Pulse knew the legend.
So, this is basically a Pulse armory.
Mm-hmm. Most of us never believed in them. A few people tried searching, but they never found a thing. Who'd have thought to look on Cocoon?
Right under our noses. Some secret they kept. Yeah, those Sanctum guys, what are they up to?
The story's not done. There's more.
They used to say the Arks had a more practical purpose.
Huh. Really?
Yeah, to force l'Cie to master their shiny new powers.
Huh.
Okay, so I get it. Daisley's goal is to forge us into stronger weapons. Right.
Not XIII, but monsters all the same.
Think of it as training for the fight ahead.
Herb's right.
Wait, what was that? These guys again.
Fun times.
Over there! We gotta keep moving.
Alright, so after the scene, you got a lot of different stuff you can now do. For example, you can switch your party leader to whoever you want, and you can freely select any of the 6 characters in your battle team. More importantly, if you now go to the Crystarium, your characters can now develop farther. And also, you're now able to harness the full powers of a l'Cie. Your characters can master any role. You will be able to use a new role once you have learned one of its abilities. Master a variety of roles and you will gain access to more versatile paradigms. Okay, so you remember how the whole game we've been limited with each character to 3 specific roles when using the Crystarium? Well, now all roles are unlocked for each character, so you can customize them as you see fit. If you want Lightning to be a Sentinel, you can now do it. If you want Lightning to be a Saboteur, you can do it, or a Synergist. And the same goes for all characters. They can master any role. Now, before you go ahead and start developing on a new role right away, let me quickly explain some things. In order for the role to be activated, you have to learn the first ability. So for example, for Lightning to become a Sentinel, she has to progress far enough to learn Provoke. Once she learns the first ability on each role, she'll be able to use that role in battle. Now, it comes at a pretty big price, because if you look at the CP cost, at the base level, you're spending 3,000 CP to advance from each crystal. As you go higher and higher, the CP increases dramatically. As you can see, towards the top, we're up to 15,000 CP, 30,000, 18,000, 21,000, 42,000. So as you can see, you will definitely end up spending a whole lot of CP, and you won't get very far because we don't have enough CP saved up just yet. Now, if you're suggesting on maxing out a new role for each character, I would highly suggest to wait till the end of the game, because by then you'll be fighting monsters that give you a whole lot more CP, so it'll be easier to grind. If you want to max out a role, you can go ahead, but it's going to take very long, and it's going to be a long process to gather enough CP to make your way to the top of a new role. So if you're wondering on what I'm going to be doing, I'm not going to be mastering any new roles except for the first couple abilities. Now, it's okay if you want to learn the first couple abilities of a certain role, because then the CP cost is not that great. It's still a lot, but it's not going to be a lot as if you're trying to make it to the top. Now, eventually, after we beat the game and we start working on the optional stuff, we're going to, of course, have to max out all the roles. But then you're going to be getting a lot more CP per fight, like 20,000, 30,000 CP per fight. This will allow you to master all of the additional roles for each character really quickly. Because if you try to do it now and you just keep fighting battle after battle, you're going to be here for days trying to master a new role in the Crystarium. So for now, if you want, you can go ahead and master the first couple abilities for each role so that your main characters can use all the roles. But even that's going to use a lot of CP. You're figuring 150,000 CP to master the first couple abilities for each new role. So more importantly, you should work on your current roles. Before developing and starting on a new role, you're going to want to max your characters out in their specific roles first. So for example, we're going to start off with Lightning because we have 55,000 CP saved up. So let's go ahead and master her, or fill out her Commando Crystarium. This will make her a little bit stronger because the battles that you're going to be fighting here are a lot more tougher than on the Palamacia airship. So you're going to want to make sure to use all of the CP you have stored up. After you max out the Commando role for Lightning, work on her Ravager role. And as long as you've been CP grinding like I have, you should have plenty of CP in order to max out all roles. So finally, after maxing out Commando and Ravager, let's go ahead and max out her Medic role. And just to make sure, let's check and make sure I have all the crystals. Alright, so Lightning has her Stage 7 Crystarium maxed out for all of her primary roles. Now you may be thinking, should I start now and work on some of the new roles and learn at least the first ability so I can use them? Well, that's entirely up to you. If you want, you can go ahead and do that. However, I don't really suggest it right now, because even if you do learn a couple abilities, you're not going to be able to use that role as effectively as switching with other characters who are already a good ways through the role that you're trying to master with a new character. So for all of the new roles that have been unlocked, I suggest you just leave them alone. If you want, you can go ahead and purchase the first couple abilities so that you can make your battle team a little bit more flexible. But for me, I'm not going to worry about that at this moment because it's not that important. As you can see, like the HP plus 10, Strength plus 3, Magic plus 3, that's really nothing. And it's not worth the CP cost right now. Until we can fight enemies that give us enough CP to worry about that, just leave it alone. But if you want, go ahead and take it on. But for me, I'm just going to stick with the primary roles until I beat the game. And I'm just going to continue saving up lots of CP, because I'm just going to tell you guys this right now. Even though you've maxed out your Crystarium, as far as it'll go for now with your character's primary roles, like for example, I just mastered everything that we can do for Lightning in her primary role, and I still have 34,000 CP. So while you may be tempted to spend the rest of your CP that you have extra on these new roles, I don't suggest that's a good idea, because once your Crystarium expands even farther, because we're not done with our Crystarium expanding, it will go a lot further. Well, once it expands, the CP cost is going to be a lot more significant and a higher amount. So you're going to want to make sure that you have stacked up your CP, so when the Crystarium expands again, you'll be able to quickly max it out. And even then, it's going to take a while, because once the Crystarium starts expanding from here, the CP cost is going to be tremendous. So my advice to you guys, to save you guys some effort and not have to grind, start saving up your CP now more than ever. If you already have a head start like I do and have about 34,000 left over after you've maxed out your current primary roles on the Crystarium, then that's good. That means you're going to have to do less work later. So go ahead and hold on to that. Now the maximum amount of CP that you can hold on to is 999,999. So that's 1 point away from 1,000,000 CP. So if for some reason you already have 999,999 CP, then yes, you can start working on your other roles. But for now, I would suggest to continue stacking up the CP that you get, because you're really gonna be thankful for doing it later. Alright, so now that I've explained pretty much the best I can, let's go ahead and max out everyone's primary roles. For Vanille, let's clean up her Ravager role. She'll learn Thundera. And then let's work on her Saboteur role. She can learn D-Shelga and D-Protectaga. And also Jinx, which extends the duration of a target's existing status ailments upon inflicting new ones, which is an excellent move if you're using Vanille as a Saboteur. After you've maxed out her Saboteur role, let's work on her Medic role. So again, I would not recommend starting to max out any new roles for each character. If you want and you absolutely have to, and you feel like you have to, just get the first couple abilities and then leave it alone, because you're gonna want to save your CP for later on in the game. I'm just giving you a little bit of advice. I'm not trying to tell you guys how to play, I'm just trying to tell you that you're gonna want to have some CP saved up. So if you want, go ahead and do it, but for me, I'm going to be leaving all the secondary roles alone. I'm only maxing out primary roles for my characters. Next up, let's work on Saz. So let's start off maxing out his Commando role. And then his Ravager. And finally his Synergist. Note that Saz will learn Bar Fire and Bar Frost as a Synergist. And after learning everything in Saz's primary roles, let's move on to Hope. Start by maxing out his Ravager role. And then move on to his Synergist role. Hope will learn In Thunder and In Water when progressing through his Synergist role. And finally, let's max out his Medic role. Alright, after maxing out Hope's primary roles, let's move on to Snow. Snow will learn Smite as a Commando. And then let's work on his Ravager role. And finally, his Sentinel role. He'll learn Entrench. And finally, let's max out Fang's primary roles. So let's start off using Commando. Note that Fang will learn Power Chain and Death Blow along her commando role. Now let's work on her Sentinel role. She can learn Counter and Challenge. Also, she'll learn Entrench. And finally, let's max out her Saboteur role. She can learn Fog and Fogga. And that's it for maxing out our current characters' primary roles in the Crystarium. Now note how I only maxed out each character's primary role and left their secondary role, which they just learned, at level 0. Now this is because I want to save CP. Again, you guys should I highly advise you guys to save your CP. Don't worry about the secondary roles yet. We will eventually get to it. But the CP cost is simply not worth the low amount of upgrades you're going to be getting for developing new roles. Whenever we do get to it, I will definitely let you guys know, and I'll show you exactly how I proceed in case you guys want to know how I do it. But for now, maxing out your primary roles is well enough to get the job done. Alright, and one more note before we move on. From now on, I'm going to be referring to the Crystarium. When I say maxing out Crystarium, I mean the primary roles. So I'm not going to take the time to say max out only primary roles and not secondary. You should know from here on out, when I talk about maxing out the Crystarium, that means your primary roles. So primary roles mean the roles that your character have had since the beginning of the game. Each character will have 3 primary roles and 3 secondary roles. So the secondary roles is what you just got, and they should all be level 0. So we're not going to worry about any of the secondary roles. Let's just pretend they're not there. If you want, now this is completely optional and up to you. If you want, you can go ahead and start upgrading them. But what I'm going to be doing, and my advice to you, is to just leave them alone, and we will get to them eventually after we beat the game. For now, let's just focus on completely maxing out everyone's primary roles and then saving up all CP. Once your CP has been maxed out, and you'll see it because you won't be getting any more CP after battle, the maximum number of CP you can have is 999,999. So unless you do a whole crap load of grinding from here to the end of the game, you should be good to stack up your CP from here to the end of the game. Alright, so yeah, I just wanted to cover that. Again, this is the final time I will state it. I'm only going to be maxing out my character's primary roles, and I'm going to leave their secondary roles alone. And whenever I say to max out your Crystarium, that means to simply max out their primary roles. Do not worry about their secondary roles. Alright, so once you've done your upgrading, now you may be wondering why I'm using Saz instead of Fang, because I stated earlier in the game that Fang is a better commando. Well, the main reason is because Saz is a synergist, and that's why I have the active paradigm set to Decimation, which is Commando Ravager Synergist. This way, Saz can cast Haste at the beginning of each battle, and then once Haste is on all characters, you can switch over to Relentless Assault and play like you normally would. So for now, we're going to use Saz because of his very awesome and useful haste ability. But very soon, and I'll let you guys know when, Saz is going to be replaced by Fang. Also, what's really important to take note of is Lightning has now become the primary commando because Fang is not being used. So generally, Fang is an all-around better commando, but since she's not in the party, Lightning is second best. So it's advisable to use Lightning as a commando and have Saz as a Ravager. or you can alternate and have Lightning as a Ravager and Saz as a Commando. Either way, it's all the same, but I prefer having Lightning as a Commando because I feel she's better at it. So now that I've explained everything to my fullest, go ahead and continue on. If you turn backwards, you can take care of some enemies behind you so that you can reach the save point.
Thanks.
Also, you might want to take note, you may be thinking about upgrading your weapons and stuff. Well, we're very close to the upgrade area, so I suggest to just hold off for a little bit longer so that whenever the time comes, you can upgrade the most effective way. So we're getting close, don't worry, but we're still a little ways off. So I'll let you guys know exactly when to start upgrading your weapons and accessories. And when that time comes, I'll show you guys the best strategies that I know of so that it'll make your time a whole lot easier when upgrading your weapons. Okay, so let's continue backtracking.
New strategy.
And we got one more group of enemies to take care of behind us before we can start moving forward. Now you may be wondering, why am I going backwards when there's no treasure? Well, it's mainly for the CP. I want to have as much CP saved up as possible. And the only way to get the most CP is by fighting all the enemies that you come in contact with, even if they are behind you.
Don't give up!
Alright, so after clearing out all the enemies behind you, I'm going to go ahead and descend the stairs that we came up earlier to reach the save point that we passed up earlier. Alright, so with that, that's going to conclude this episode of Let's Play Final Fantasy XIII. I'll see you guys next time where we head into the 5th arc and see what awaits us.